ChatGPT is literally changing the way our brain works.
About 700 million people use ChatGPT every week.
AI is making you dumber.
New research on how dumb AI is making us.
Could AI be destroying our brain?
AI has become our personal assistant, our therapist, our confidant, and even our partner.
Even though he is AI, he has real impact on my life. And that is what I think is really important.
Not to mention, AI is now integrated into everything. And so a team of MIT decided to test a group of people who had access to an LLM versus people who didn't to see how their brains behaved. Using LLMs became almost like a brain inhibitor. In the test group, using AI reduced brain connections in some cases by almost 50%. And plenty of studies from the past couple of years have had similar findings. That's probably not a big surprise, but do we have a choice? Because using generative AI has stopped being an option, but almost a necessity at this point, just to keep up with employers that demand more output and more productivity.
More than half of all companies encourage workers to use artificial intelligence.
And then there's one designer coder empowered by AI.
But as worrying as the data may look, researchers have also been able to find a workaround, a loophole, if you will, to use ChatGPT and other models to potentially and scientifically improve the way your brain works. And to understand how, we need to look at the brain. I want to show you what they tested. I want to show you how they did it, and especially how to avoid falling into this black hole of AI numbness. Now, the benchmark for most of these studies goes into EEGs and alpha waves and beta, theta, and DDTF. So let's first get to the basics, how our brain works. Now, people tend to think that learning has to do with increasing the number of neurons that you have. But it's more to do with the connections between those neurons. The easiest analogy is imagining that there's this forest in your head. And the trip from one side of the brain, say the side of the brain that sees, to the side of the brain that thinks, is kind of a journey through this forest. What's actually happening really is like this mix of electrical and chemical connections between neurons, but for today, I'm just gonna stick to trees. Now, what we need to do is kind of clear a path to build a road, if you will, between the different parts of your brain. An example, how does our brain pick, say, a good avocado at the supermarket? Now, we're gonna need to do a lot of brain traveling to pick an avocado. And that starts at the occipital cortex, which parses what we see. We are looking at a pile of avocados at the supermarket. So how does our brain select a good one? Well, first, the ventral stream in the temporal lobe is the one that reads color and texture. That's the what. Then the parietal areas steer attention and the hand-eye movements to what we're looking at, the where and the how. And then a pathway is gonna be cleared to the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, or DLPFC, that's what I'm gonna call it from now on, which is the part of the brain that's gonna make the call. This part of the brain is involved in planning and reasoning, and it has our working memory. To put that in geek terms, this part of the brain is acting kind of like RAM. The DLPFC is accessing long-term memories about our experiences with bad avocados. It's accessing stuff that we've learned over time, and then it puts them in our working memory so that we can use them for this specific action that we're performing. And so a decision's been made. You've pre-selected an avocado. Now the point here is that if I had to pick avocados every day, I'd start clearing a stronger path, and then I'd build something like a highway between these two sections of the brain. Maybe I become a master avocado picker. That's how people master skills, by making these really strong streamlined connections and keeping them in use. Now, one skill that requires a fair share of connections is building products, but so much of that time goes to memorizing code. And if you're not technical, say you're a marketer, it's maybe a little late to go back to school. So that's why I suggest you take a look at HubSpot's free Marketer's Guide to Vibe Coding using Lovable. So this guide shows you how to turn ideas into worthy marketing tools through simple conversations with AI, no coding, no waiting for developers. HubSpot's guide teaches you how to build your first app in just 10 minutes with a literal minute-by-minute breakdown on what to do. It has tips on prompting, best practices on marketer tools, and even a $25 credit on Lovable, currently the largest vibe coding platform. So my favorite part of this guide is the exact prompt section, because it shows you the specific language that works instead of making you guess what to ask the AI. Basically, you can build something in 10 minutes that would take 2 to 3 hours using a website builder, or at least a few $100s using an agency. Building your own tools as a marketer is key in this day and age, so you can grab the guide for free using the link in the description, or just snatch this QR code here. This resource was made by HubSpot, who also pitched into the production of today's video. Okay, so back to the study. What this team at MIT did was recruit 54 participants that got split into 3 groups. Each group would have to write 3 essays over 3 different sessions. Now, the essay was based on some SAT-style prompts. Now, the first group had to use just their brains. The second group could use Google, and the last group was allowed to use ChatGPT or any LLM. Now, each of them wore an Innovio EEG headset that would scan their brainwaves as they performed the work. Now, they picked topics from this list, pause if you want to read it, which overall doesn't require a lot of research, but rather a dissertation, some thinking and some reasoning. And they had 20 minutes to write, which was intentionally short, and then they were moved over to an interview. And there were, I'm gonna say, some obvious findings. For example, in the first session, not knowing what the question was gonna be in the interview, 0% of the people who used an LLM were able to quote anything that they wrote in their essays. No shit. By session 3, 13 out of the 18 subjects in the LLM group were able to quote at least 1 sentence from the work that they made. In the other 2 groups, on the other hand, their ability to quote their own writing was actually much higher, even from the first session. Now, also obvious, teachers who reviewed the essays were able to detect the LLM feel when it wrote the essays. So they graded language, structure, and accuracy pretty well for the chatbots. Now, the brain-only papers were sometimes less accurate or got lower content scores. I'm gonna get back to that in a sec. I wanna get to the good stuff, brains. In the brain-only group, the connectivity map is broader and stronger overall. And this is more or less how it looked. Now, you have a highway here, just like with the avocados. That means that there was a stronger, broader, direct connectivity going from the visual part of the brain to the DLPFC. Now, the team interpreted this connection, this activity, as the writers visualized and pulled scenes from memory and then handing those scenes off to the planning areas of the brain. There was also a lot of activity around this area, which is a semantic region of the brain, and it maps meaning to words before sending that to the frontal planner that shapes a sentence. Finally, a lot of activity converged in the prefrontal executive area. This is what you would expect when someone is self-generating, organizing, revising ideas internally. Now, as we moved from session 1 to session 3, all of these connections got stronger. Now, back to our trees metaphor, this means that highways got built. The subjects were getting better at executing this task. Now, without internet assistance, participants engaged memory and planning networks intensely, aligning with the need to recall information and creatively generate content. By the way, I'm oversimplifying a lot here because EEGs not only measure the areas of the brain that are lighting up, but the frequencies of the waves that travel between those areas. For example, alpha waves. The paper ties alpha waves to attention and semantic retrieval while you're coming up with creative ideas. Now, alpha waves between these parts of the brain were stronger in the brain group compared to the LLM group, but for the rest of the video, I'm just gonna really keep it simpler. I'm gonna focus mostly on the regions of the brain that got activated. In the group that was able to use ChatGPT, this entire network was a lot weaker and it had a very different shape. That avocado highway that lit up in the brain group, I'm calling it avocado highway from now on, that was much weaker. There was practically no convergence in this semantic processing area. Actually, there's not a single region or pathway that was stronger in the LLM group. Their brains statistically, scientifically built fewer pathways than any of the other groups. In other words, the circuits that build and encode ideas, that store them in memory, that build highways in the forest, they're all much weaker. 55% total magnitude reduction compared to the brain-only group. Not only that, but some connections started stronger in the first session and then got weaker or completely disappeared by session 3. A complete reroute towards supervising and formatting rather than assembling ideas.
I'm learning.
Now, other studies have come to similar conclusions. This research article analyzed the memory capacity and the procrastination of a group of almost 500 university students. Use of ChatGPT was likely to develop tendencies for procrastinating and memory loss and dampen the students' academic performance. A standard deviation uptick in ChatGPT use predicts about a 0.1 standard deviation drop in GPA and that drop is statistically significant. Students also reported a statistically significant increase in memory problems, their capacity to retain information. Now, this other paper concluded the same thing. Prolonged AI exposure led to memory decline. Colleges seem to understand that using ChatGPT doesn't help students, and teachers are now forced to scramble ways to stop or at least reduce the use of AI by their students. But at work, it's the complete opposite. At least half of US companies are encouraging employees to use some form of AI, and encourage is even a soft word for it. Microsoft told its employees the other day that using AI is no longer optional, it's core to every role and to every level. The CEO of Axel Springer, the media conglomerate that owns Politico and Business Insiders, told the employees that nobody in the company has to explain why she or he is using AI to do something. Whether to prepare a presentation or analyze a document, you only have to explain if you didn't use AI, because it shouldn't happen. Okay, so the workaround. The MIT team behind this study came up with an extra test that gives us some hope. It was an optional 4th session that the brain group and the LLM group were allowed to take. Now, in this 4th session, the LLM group was asked to write an essay only using their brain. And for them, the results were the most concerning of all. You see, the brain-only group started with weaker connections, and the session progressed, built highways, connectivity increased. When the LLM group was forced to finally use their brains to write the essays in session 4, the activity that they observed in their brain was far behind. It was comparable to someone between sessions 1 and session 2 of the brain group. There were no changes in the quality of the work. The essays still felt weaker to the teachers who evaluated them. The subjects still weren't able to quote their work. If you remember, the brain group was originally really good at quoting the stuff that they wrote, and that continued to be the case, but these guys, still 78% of the LLM to brain group couldn't quote anything that they had written. Removing AI support significantly impaired the participants from the original LLM group. But the brain group, those guys aced it. They were given the option to write their session 4 essay while using an LLM. And the quality of work, as reviewed by the teachers, increased even more, especially on structure and organization. In the forethought topic essays, they were graded at least 1.5 standard deviations higher than the previous ones, and the pathways of brain activity were by all means the highlight. The highways that were created already between the back of the brain and the DLPFC were activated just like before, but on top of that, there was a pattern of midline supervision as information from the bot got reviewed. So basically, this paper concludes that the big difference in the ability to quote their work is the biggest tangible reflection of the lack of brain connections. It's still preliminary. It's pending peer reviews before it publishes as a proper academic paper, but we need to be thinking about this so much more. When I was learning math in 2nd grade, my teacher used to say that we had to learn to do it in our heads because we weren't gonna carry calculators in our pockets all the time. And boy, was she wrong about that. But if we hadn't done that, if we had removed the need to think and to multiply in our head, and if we had used calculators from the get-go, we'd be idiots. Now, this is the last study that I'm going to tell you about. This is a study from a team that observed a group of doctors perform thousands of colonoscopies before using any kind of AI to help them. So the adenoma, the potential for tumors or cancers, detection rate was 28%. Then they gave those same doctors AI tools. Other studies have proven that AI tools can aid in this detection rate, sometimes up to 20%. Great, but that's not what this study was looking for. They were after what happened later. After the doctors lost access to the AI tools, the detection rate dropped much lower than at the beginning of the experiment. Now, I firmly believe that these tools are gonna make work more efficient. I firmly believe that they will increase productivity, but we need to keep our brains functioning to do that. I think too many people are just outsourcing their thinking to these chatbots, and as smart as LLMs are, or they can pretend to be, they can only be transformative to our society if we use them as tools and not as brain replacements. Like, there's no magic law here that's gonna stop LLMs from existing or people from using them. There's no magic line of code that's gonna stop LLMs from causing these effects on the brain or dumbing us down, because the tech is here and it moves a lot faster than we can understand it. How LLMs end up transforming our brains is really up to each one of us and how we end up using these tools. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, check out our episode last month on what researchers are saying about what the world can become with AI. Catch you next one.